What I'm doing now is preparing the knife, trying to get it in the vise. Trying to get it in there pretty good so it can't come out. Has some kind of plastic melted on the end of it. I'm going to use a hacksaw, saw through it. You can see the plastic falling around. Looks like somebody had it in a fire and messed around with it. Just chip away at it with a screwdriver. See what happens. You can see where there's more plastic tightly wrapped around the end of the handle. Ugly looking charred colored plastic. Now I'm going to put some salt and some water, do some electrolysis, see if we can get rid of some of the rust that way. Hook a battery charger to it. Don't take too long. Mix it together a little, help it out. Put some rebar in there. Work with it, get it positioned, get the battery charger. So I have another battery charger, a lot better than this one. Taking the knife after this one, I'll try to sandblast it a little, see what happens. Until it's working, we'll see all those bubbles. Just leave it alone for a while and let it finish up. I've taken a belt sander to it instead of using the big belt sander in the shop. Decided to start using the smaller belt sander. Same results, less wear and tear on those bigger belts. Always be careful when you're doing this. So I have had those sanders jerk the knife out of my hand. So don't have it in a position where it's going to hit you or somebody else. And be mindful of other people around you. Just trying to get it as silver as I can get it and take away a lot of the divots that are in the metal. You don't have to get every single one of them. Just restoring a knife. I'm not trying to make it look perfectly brand new. Don't take as long as you think. Somebody watching may think it takes a while to do this, but it really don't. And after that's done, take the angle grinder to it. Different grits of sandpaper. Usually start around 40, 60, 80, 120, 220, like that. All the way up to around 300, 400, like that. So like I said, I'm not aiming for perfectionism. Just want to make a knife look good. Just a project. I always have a firm grip on an angle grinder. Just don't have to have the chokehold on it. Just be careful with tools. Be mindful of where the cord is. This method works pretty good, but sometimes you get vibration. Sometimes you get vibration in the knife. It can cause can put marks back in the blade. I'm wiping the knife down with some little bit of oil. It's always important too to wet the blade from time to time when you're sanding it. It's going to get really hot. Also using some steel wool on it. Number 0000. Now to the bench grinder. Try to put a little bit of an edge on it. Have to be careful here too, because it can grab it and wedge it down in between the wheel and the plate below it, because it's spinning it in a downward position. Always be careful with these sparks. They're extremely hot. Don't want anything that can catch on fire around this when you're grinding anything. I don't try to make these knives razor sharp, but it can be done. Just when you're finished doing all of the work to it, just take it to a leather stroke and pretty much shave with it. I don't see the need for a knife that sharp. But this is the big sander I was talking about earlier. It's easier to change the belt on the small one and work the small one. Sometimes I go to this big one. Just get a little bit more done. The belt on this one is a finer grit. Just thin out the end of it more. This is the sander that can really get wild with you if you let it. This is the sander that jerked a pretty big heavy knife out of my hand and put a big hole in the ceiling. To shine it up a little bit. Not going to go crazy with it. Just shining up a knife. I don't need a mirror. This knife is going back to the person it came from. Using the spinning disc on the Royce. The Dremel 4000 is failed again. It's damaged. Have a 4300 on the way. Bigger motor. It's supposed to be a better Dremel. Well, I have put mirror finishes on things before, but I don't see no need to do a knife like that, or an axe or anything. It's just, it's too much. Remove as many scratches as I think that looks okay. Once I get it to where I think this is good enough, then I'll stop. Marking out place for the knife handle. Sometimes I'll make a knife handle and be working on it. Wood will break and I have to change my handle. Just a part of the process. You see a monkey on the side. Just trying a glue method to put a monkey on a piece of wood. Using the Hitachi sliding compound miter saw to cut that, because it can. The fence will allow a piece of wood to be blocked like that so it can be cut. And because the blade is spinning toward the fence, it's just going to hold it in there good and tight. Just keep your hands away from it also. Taking some of the wood out this way. Methods change. Some wood is harder than other wood, or some of the same wood can be harder just because of weathering. Choose what method works best. You'll know that if something's working or not when you start, because you can feel the resistance that you're getting. A decent amount of resistance for this. A little bit too much. So bring out the big guns on it. Bring out the palm router. The Skil palm router is my favorite one to use. Just like the plunge router I use also is my favorite one is the Skil. Just seems like a better router, smoother, works better. Cutting down into the wood. Should be half and half on each side of the knife. I'll take this one deep because the wood's thick. Just try different techniques sometimes. Sometimes I get thinking, well, what if I do this, or what if I do that? So instead of just practicing on something, I'll just try it out on what I'm doing at the time. decided to make this like an Egyptian knife. So I want to make the handle more of an Egyptian style. You just sit it up on the counter on its end, which is actually dangerous to do. So when you sit it up, you don't want to sit it where somebody can fall on it or anything. You want to use common sense where you put it. You want to put it on the back of the counter. You want to put it somewhere where someone can't get hurt on it. Trying to even up both sides. Checking the blade. Got to look at it all the way around, make sure you got the same distance on all the sides. Check out how it feels in your hand. I'm going to go back to the other shop. I have one in the shipping container and one in this side. Can't keep everything in one area. Just not enough space on each side. Had to set up these lights in different parts of the shop. This has to be well lit. You have to have a well lit shop, and on top of that, my eyes are not what they used to be. Back to the Royce again. Putting in a sanding tool, a little sanding drum. Just sand it down good. Some high spots out of it. You do it pretty good on the belt sander. There's not a lot of work to do. Had a little kickback there. Bit of hand sanding. Smooth it down a little more. Some people want to sand things to death, and that's not a good idea. Some woods you'll sand it too much, get it too smooth, and you got to put a finish on it. The finish won't take properly. So limit to how smooth you want something to be when you're putting a finish on it. If you're putting paint on it, you don't even have to go too far at all. Now back with a finer grit sandpaper. I want it to be smooth, but not too smooth. But sometimes I have to sand it a little more than I want, because I have little edges sticking up. There's some edges there that you took down. Had to go back to the lower grit sandpaper. Now wood burning. Already have a few wood burned in there. Don't have to record the whole thing. working with a smaller wood burner. When you're going down with the grain, it burns wider and hotter. You go against the grain, the result's not as vivid. So you have to be careful when you're burning against or with the grain. Because if you're going with the grain, you can really open up the wood. Going against the grain, you may have little pieces that you'll have to go back over. Keeping with the Egyptian theme, of course. Just printed some things off the internet, cut them out, laid it in certain areas with some carbon paper, and just drew it on there with a 0.5 lead pencil. Very fine tip. This wood burner is a little bit slow, a little bit tedious. It's not doing too good. Going across the grain. So, because the other wood burner just wasn't doing what I wanted it to do, I had to get the better wood burner. It's a smaller wood burner, just can't cut it. Finishing up the Eye of Horus and then moving on to some of the other ones. These are all hand done. So you're going to see slight differences from one side to the other. When I was a kid, I was really into, for a time period, I was really into learning about Egypt, ancient Egypt. I would check out books from the library and actually keep them and not take them back. Every time I go in to check out another book, I would get nervous about what they would say, because I had so many books checked out I never took back, but they never said anything. So I just kept them. But I would donate books to the library also, quite a bit. If I seen someone giving away books or something, or books that I didn't really like, I would box them up and donate them to the library. Maybe why they never said anything. Tedious work. Try to keep a steady hand. Try to get these bottom pieces done good, but like I said, when you're going with the grain, you can't tell what'll happen. Hit some soft spots in the wood. It's always good to have a wood burner. It's always something you could end up doing with it sooner or later. But it mostly lays around collecting dust. Small areas like these are hard to do. Have to refer back to the paper, original picture. Also to see if any parts were missed, or to see how something was, like the head of something was shaped, or if you forgot to leave something out. You can see the small pictures on the work table. Just choose what you're going to do with your project. And I knew when I choose the wood burning part, it was going to not take too much time. Sometimes you want to take that little extra step. Just to make something look a little bit different, a little bit better, or unique. I'm working the back side. Like I said, things can be a little bit different from one side to the other. These are handmade. Run into a piece of softer wood at the top, going against the grain, so you can already see the top of the eye of Horus is already a little bit different. Now on to putting a little shine to it. What I'm using is a product that you actually put on paint. You can put it on latex paint. You can put it on other things too. Rub it on, put it on a wall, make things that are not glossy look glossy. But you don't want to use it as a finish on a table. It won't work. It's too soft. It doesn't cure. It doesn't harden really hard when it cures. Now I don't wear a necktie, but I'm using an old necktie that I found to rub that on. Because everything this stuff touches has to be thrown away. And here's what it looked like before. Rusted. Here's what it looks like now. More melted plastic handle. Cleaned up nice. Side picture made it look stubby.